The world moves fast, too fast sometimes. People chase everything: success, pride, power, but forget the small things that truly matter. When I was young, my grandmother used to tell me stories. Not just any stories, but ones where animals taught humans how to live. She said, "Wisdom hides in simple hearts. If you listen closely, even the smallest creature can teach you something great. So come closer, my child. Sit with me a while." These are the tales of lions and tortoises, crows and elephants, stories that whisper truths about pride, patience, and the quiet strength of kindness. Let the forest fall silent, and may your heart stay open, for wisdom speaks softly, and only the humble truly listen. When life feels empty, don't complain. Think and fill it up with wisdom. One hot afternoon, a thirsty crow searched everywhere for water. He finally found a pot, but the water was too low for his beak to reach. For a moment, he almost gave up. Then he looked around and smiled. He began picking up small pebbles and dropping them one by one into the pot. Slowly the water rose. Soon, the clever crow bent down and drank deeply, refreshed and grateful. Granny says, smart minds don't give up when life gets tough. They find another way. Pride runs fast, but patience always finishes the race. One bright morning, a proud lion laughed at a slow tortoise crawling by. "Why even bother moving?" the lion roared. "You'll never get anywhere in life." The tortoise just smiled and said, "Maybe not as fast as you, but I'll get there." Days passed. The lion raced everywhere, showing off his speed. But one day, he got trapped in a hunter's net. His pride had blinded him. The tortoise slowly came by, chewed the ropes, and set the lion free. The lion hung his head. "You saved me, after all I said." The tortoise smiled again. Patience doesn't rush to prove. It acts when needed. Granny says, be patient and humble. Slow progress is still progress. Never look down on others. Even the smallest can teach the biggest a lesson. One sunny morning, a proud elephant stomped through the forest, shaking the ground beneath his feet. He laughed at the tiny ants crossing his path. "Move aside, little ones. You're too small to matter." The ants hurried away, all except one brave ant who climbed up his trunk and bit him hard on the ear. The elephant trumpeted in pain, shaking his head and begging, "Please stop." The ant replied, "Remember, strength without respect is weakness." The elephant bowed low, ashamed of his pride. Granny says, respect everyone, no matter how small. True strength is humble. Smart thinking saves you when strength can't. One morning, a hungry fox spotted a hunter setting traps in the forest. The fox whispered to himself, "If I rush in, I'll be caught. But if I wait, I'll win." He watched as the hunter baited his trap and hid behind a tree. Moments later, the fox picked up a long stick with his teeth and dropped it in the trap. Snap! The trap closed, empty. The hunter ran over angrily, and the fox slipped away with the food. Granny says, never rush into danger. Wisdom waits, then acts. Even the strongest must learn to wait for the right moment. High in the mountains, a young eagle flapped his wings again and again, desperate to fly before he was ready. He watched other birds soar and felt jealous. One day, he jumped from the cliff too early and nearly fell to his death. Hurt and humbled, he waited until one day the wind came strong beneath him. This time, he spread his wings, rose high, and never looked back. Granny says, wisdom isn't in rushing, it's in knowing when to rise. No effort is ever too small. Even an ant can move a mountain with time. One morning, an ant stood before a huge mountain. Every day, he carried a grain of sand from the mountain's base to another spot. The other animals laughed. You move a mountain. That's impossible. But the ant smiled and said, maybe. But each day, it becomes a little smaller. Days turned into months, and though the mountain still stood tall, a small dent began to form. The animals were shocked. The impossible was slowly happening. Granny says, don't despise small beginnings. Step by step, your persistence will move your mountain. Wisdom speaks softly, but only the humble truly listen. In a quiet forest, an old owl watched over a group of young birds who loved to chatter all day. One evening, the owl warned them, a hunter will come soon. Stay silent and hidden when you hear footsteps. But the birds laughed and said, old owl, you're worrying too much. The next morning, the hunter came. The foolish birds kept singing, and one by one, they were caught in his net. Only a few who listened to the owl survived. Granny says, never ignore wise counsel. Listening can save your life. Wisdom always wins where pride blinds the heart. One sunny morning, a hungry lion roamed the forest, roaring proudly, no one can escape me. Nearby, a gentle deer overheard him and smiled quietly. The lion spotted the deer and chased him furiously through the woods. But the clever deer led him to a deep pit covered with dry leaves. As the lion jumped to catch him, he fell straight into the pit. The deer looked down and said softly, pride made you blind, but wisdom kept me safe. Granny says, never let pride guide your steps. Think before you leap. Once upon a quiet morning, a crow sat proudly on a tree branch.
A delicious piece of cheese clutched in its beak. Below the tree stood a clever fox, eyes fixed on that cheese. But instead of jumping, he smiled and said sweetly, oh beautiful crow, your feathers shine like gold. I've heard you sing like an angel. Could I hear your song? Flattered, the foolish crow opened her beak to sing, and down fell the cheese, straight into the fox's mouth. The fox bowed and said, thank you, my friend. Next time, beware of sweet words. Granny says, don't let flattery blind your judgment. A wise heart listens beyond the praise. Follow Granny wisdom advice for more short moral stories that warm the heart and open the mind.
One hot afternoon, a hungry monkey found a bunch of juicy mangoes hanging over a calm river. He ate one, then two, then three. But still, he wanted more. So he reached for another branch and another, until he slipped and fell into the river below. The water swept away every mango he had. When he climbed out, cold and tired, he realized his greed had taken away what he already had. Granny says, be grateful for what's in your hands, or you lose it trying to grab for more. Kindness always finds its way back to you. There was once a loyal dog who served his master with love and devotion. Rain or shine, the dog stayed by his side, guarding a home, fetching food, wagging his tail even when ignored. But the master grew cold and cruel. He shouted, threw stones, and forgot the love the dog had given. One stormy night, a thief broke in. The faithful dog fought fiercely to protect his master, though he was badly hurt. When morning came, the master wept beside his loyal friend, realizing too late the value of love and loyalty. Granny says, never mistreat those who love you unconditionally, because when kindness dies, regret takes its place. If you learned something from Granny today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more wisdom and moral stories. Until next time, stay kind and stay wise.